Welcome along to our next virtual open day here that we're doing on focusing on grazing. We're here with Fergal Kelly in Ballygolly. Fergal's going to outline his farm and setup here. Fergal, if you just want to maybe just say what you're farming and what you're doing here.
Farming about 150-ish acres. We don't rent any land. We have about, it fluctuates between sort of 80 to 85, 86 cows. We rear our own heifers. We do a wee bit of beef as well. We're not that intensive really, or probably in normal terms quite extensive I suppose you'd say nowadays, but I quite like it that way. I like to be reasonably comfortable with everything. So we're on the robot now since October 18. So we're getting pretty well used to it at this stage.
Good. And how are you getting on today? I see here you have the T4C here.
Yeah.
How are you getting?
We're normally sitting close to that sort of 2,000 litres a day. We've been working on getting that up this past probably really since the robot went in. But it takes time to work on your feed, to work on the robot, everything gets used to it, and certainly heifers now that have calved down that have never been milked in the parlour are flying along on the robot, which is probably better, but the cows are getting there as well. So the cows are out grazing now since the 3rd of April. We would have always probably targeted trying to get out on the 17th of March when we were in the parlour. And you can say, why have I changed that? I suppose it's not changed necessarily. If there's a real good block of weather that you've seen forecast around that time, I definitely will start grazing, but I don't want to go out and then have to bring them back in again for a week. I just don't like that. I like to try and have consistency. So this past couple of years since the robot's gone in, it just has worked out around the beginning of April, and we normally make it until mid-October. And really at that stage the power of the grass is gone. So the cows are out in the field here. They're actually in the closest field. Sod's law, I'd rather show you than far away at this stage, but make you boys walk.
Yeah.
But they're in the closest field at the minute. It just happens to be that way. Average for the week's 2.3 milkings a day. We would be 2.7, 2.8 when they're indoors, and we do drop to about 2.3 when they're outdoors. And it could be 2.4, it could be 2.2, but it's average around 2.3.
And what about sort of solids and milk speed and your other parameters?
Butterfat's dropping a wee bit now because the grass is starting to come a bit better, because the grass hasn't been that great I suppose this past while because it's been a weird spring. Butterfat's sitting there about 3.93 for the week, and protein slipped a wee bit. It was 3.32, so try to keep it above, protein above 3.3 and fat about 3.9 if it can.
Yeah.
I like, and obviously when they're in the winter time those are higher, but it's the spring grass, a wee bit of flush, and the flush hasn't really happened yet.
Yeah, it's been a cool April, I suppose. How have you found managing grass this April? Has it sort of been challenging enough?
Not too bad. I suppose it's trying to find grass maybe it's more like it, I would say. Sometimes it's easier to manage grass when you have less of it than when you have too much of it, because then you have to go and get round bales done or do something like that, or take the paddocks out. So we haven't got to that stage yet, and I would say we're still scarce enough for grass. I could say where I'm going for the next 7 days, but after that you would scratch your head. But it seems to just still work out okay. And we don't sow an awful lot of fertilizer. Like, we're not like somebody who comes in after every rotation. We're now on our, actually this is the start of our third rotation. We're flying along, flying along, because there hasn't been an awful lot of grass. So
yes, so you go around quicker then when you're shorting grass,
and as the grazing block will build up, not the block, as the actual wage of grass will build up, that rotation will slow down a bit, obviously, and I might have to take something out.
And how many days normally then is
to go around the rotation?
Yeah.
Probably normally, once you've got into normal times, 25 days, I would say, give or take. We're grazing with about 35, 40 acres in the grazing block.
Yes.
We do keep the cows in at night, which I suppose a lot of people have said to me, why do you keep the cows in at night? But from the summer of 16, which was the real bad somewhere where it just never seemed to stop raining all summer, I just decided to start keeping the cows in at night that summer. And summer 17 wasn't much better. And to be honest with you, since that, I just find that my cows, when they go out during the day, they can get 70, they can eat easily 70% of their daily requirement. And I just like, if I waken up in the middle of the night and I hear the rain battering off the windows, I know my cows are lying warm and comfortable in the shade, and I'm just happier. So maybe it's a psychological thing, but it's just the way I operate. So yeah, about 25 days round, typically would get one, as the grass would come on, they get about an acre a day, or just over an acre a day. At the minute they're probably getting about 1.5. They're cut down a bit today because they got quite a big chunk yesterday. It just happens to be that way. Sometimes the tail of a field is not enough for 2 days. It's too much for one, and yesterday's one of those days was too much for one. So I've pulled them back a wee bit today, and actually you'll see now as you go around, there's a wee bit of silage left on the feed passage, which ideally I don't want either. I want my cows to get a bit of buffer or TMR at night from 6 o'clock, and ideally come 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning I would like that gone, so that the incentive is there, very much there, for them to go out. Having said that, there's none probably in there at the minute now anyway, so they're just starting to drift in and out. So it fluctuates, just work it as you go. My parlour was a good parlour, very good parlour, but it had no feed to yield. It had, obviously we weren't milking 3 times a day. We hadn't auto wash, we hadn't any of those things. It was just a basic, straightforward, good parlour. I like technology. I suppose my former career always was fond of the latest software, and as Jacob says, the latest gadgets and things like that. I like that kind of thing, even though I'm getting slightly older, and the younger fellas are more into that. But so I wanted to try and increase I had no feed to yield. I was just doing batch feeding and wanted feed to yield. The cows were probably sitting at that stage. We are a predominantly British Friesian herd, almost out and out. And there is a wee bit of Blackbay and a wee bit of Norwegian Red in there as well. But the herd's predominantly British Friesian. We were sitting around 5,800 litres, just under 6 on 1.7 tonne a year of meal. And that should have been really better in my opinion. And so it is either upgrade the parlour significantly to try and do all those nice things that we really should have been doing, or go robotics. And a good number of clients of mine in my former practice where I was an owner, they had the Lely robots, to be honest with you, and were pleased with them and they were singing their praises. So these are people I would take their word for it, and I went with robot. I think maybe it was one of the first was A5s was bought in Northern Ireland, and it really has lifted things since then, very, very much so. And it helped me improve my feed efficiency. It lifted, to be honest, it probably lifted the yields to around 7,000 straight away. And over the last year or so, we've been really working on feed efficiency, and we had a wee bit of acidosis this winter, and we started putting a bit of straw into the TMR and that, which I didn't do before either. And we're now probably, I think we'll finish this year just over 8,000 litres.
So you've gone
on about 2.4 tonne of meal. So feed rate wise, we today, like on the grass, we're about 2.25, and probably in the winter time I'm guessing about 0.32, 0.33, but overall for the year I think we'll finish off about 0.3. About just over 8,000 litres, 2.4 tonne of meal. So it's working well. And as I said to you earlier, it's probably milk speed now is more an issue that we'll have to try and work on.
Push it on.
Well,
so what have you done to the parlour here essentially? How do you use it?
I have an outdoor crush here on the farm, a good one, but I wanted an indoor crush for any animals. The robot is very, very good at throwing up, I call it the early warning system. And it genuinely is an early warning system. Like, everybody say, oh, you're just saying these things. No, it is incredibly good at picking up cows that are sick before you'll see them. And you could say, the parlour men will say, we would have spotted that. You might spot the cruds in a cow when you're stripping her before you put on the clusters. It'll show up conductivity long before that. and you can slap on udderment, put her in there, slap on the udderment, and 7 times out of 10 you'll not have to intervene, other than udderment a couple of days in a row. But you'll not pick up, you may not pick up rumination that's just down. You know, a cow could chew it's just down from 35 litres to 25 today, and it'll chew up and say there's something wrong here. If you're milking that cow in the parlour and you're hammering through cows row by row, you probably won't spot that. And those sorts of things, it just brings it in early. So I had to do something with the parlour, didn't know what to do with it. And I thought I'd like an indoor crush. This was my own idea. I haven't seen one anywhere else. So put this in. Up at this side is ideal then if you wanted to worm dose cattle or do anything like that, because you're up the height of them. And then if we want to dry off, which we do obviously, you go down in there to the pit and you can dry off your cows and tube them and seal them down in there. So unless you have any ideas, I don't know what to do with the far side of it yet. But
no,
I was thinking about calves and looking at knocking down walls and see what we could do, but at the minute it's just sitting there growing cobwebs. So that's what that's the parlour's used for now. And people say it's a waste, but I'll tell you it's not, because there's many's a night where the rain is lashing when you bring your cows in, or the cows are in. You wouldn't go out and get down on your knees on an outdoor crush. You'd say, I'll check her tomorrow when the weather's better. It doesn't matter with this here. You'll just bring her in, the lights are good, and you'll do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And it's better for the cows.
It's handy space.
And then we run them down here as well for foot bathing, twice a week in the winter time and once a week in the summertime. And out to the clean yard there, and it's really good then for their feet.
Excellent.
As well. So that's what we use the parlour for now.
Good setup. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Fergal, we're here just at the robot and Discovery's working away here.
Yeah.
What sort of project was this? If you put on 2 bays here?
Two bays, yeah. We had to put on 2 bays. We weren't bad for slurry storage really anyway, because we have plenty of other tanks, and I really wanted the minimal hassle.
Yeah.
So Lely had come out and did a plan, and I said to them, I don't want to do a tank, I just don't want the hassle of doing it. So they come up, this here's all a tank anyway, so there's plenty of storage in there. So they come up with the idea of the three channels, and I have to say, I was probably anxious enough about them as well. Can you get them sealed right and do all that? But I was OTT with the sealer and whatnot, and it has worked out really very, very, worked out very well.
Yeah, because essentially you've the 2 bays on here, 1 bay for space in front of the robot, and then 1 bay for the robot itself.
I thought the space was maybe too much at the time, because I mind saying, God, could we do a less, or look at different options, maybe increasing the length of the feed space. And your guys had said, no, leave plenty of space, and I have to say, looking back on it, real good job. You need plenty of space, because there's always cows gathered up around here, and they're going past each other, and you don't want anything getting bullied if they can at all, and there could be someone bulling up here and whatnot, so it just leaves plenty of room. And then this area, I wanted a separation area. It's possibly too big, it probably is too big, but it's an absolutely brilliant, it's a brilliant thing. The separation area is used all the time, because if you want to treat a cow, or obviously everything's on your phone anyway, so if you're away during the day and something's looking the bull, you can hit the button at the next milking you want her separated. So she's standing here waiting on you.
Do you do AIN, or do you have somebody do AIN for you?
Somebody does AIN for me, but we do, there's a bull running with them there at the minute for a bit of sweeping, but we do a combination of AA and bull.
So that's handy, because you can have it just, they're in here for you.
We did scanning here last week, and the other option when they go to the grass, the scanning man, he's well used to here. He'll know to ring at night time and say, I'm going to call with you in the morning to scan, because if he rings at 8 o'clock in the morning and says he'll be there at 9, there's probably no cows in the shed. So I'll just go on and tick the cows that I want to scan, and instead of doing separation pen, I just put in called separation in-house. So pretty much all the cows are gone. You'll have 12, 14 cows standing there wondering why they're not getting out, going around and around through the robot, but them's the cows you want to scan. So they're not even jammed in here. They're still getting their grub and space.
Separated in the house. Explain this, because you're grazing without a grazeway here.
We're grazing without a grazeway, yeah. I suppose the system, again, I like to keep things simple as I can. The setup was designed for probably the cows not being out at night time anyway. So what the Lely planners set up was what they call it, I think they call it a 3-way gate, and I didn't really understand. Well, I understood, but it actually turns out it's two-way gates. So from 4 o'clock in the evening or in the winter time, the cows go in and get milked, and that gate there will swing round and they're turned back into the shed. Mm-hmm. So they don't get out after 4 o'clock in the evening, certainly over the summer. You can change that yourself, but I have it set at 4 o'clock. From 5 a.m. in the morning, any cow that's milked, or I think I have the tolerance level set around 90%. If she's 3 or 4 hours ago since she was milked, it'll swing the gate round, they come into this back channel, and that gate stays like that, and they come on out here and up onto the lanes to the fields. If you want to separate a cow, she'll also come into this back channel, and that gate will swing around here, and then they're turned up this back entry into the separation pen. So really you have three on the farm with 3 options, and that's shed, separation pen, or out here to the lane and out to the fields. And that works simply, and then when they come back in, there's one just been milked there. Now she's drifting, she's going to drift back out. I like to watch them because they saunter in and out. They could take an hour to get back to the field, or they could take an hour to get in from the field, and they just fiddle about on their own, which is sort of a weird thing for a herd animal. And when they come back down here, they go in where you're standing, Tommy. They just go in through those 2 gates there, and that's them back into the shed. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Very, very simple system.
Here in the robot room with the A5, obviously most of the cows are out grazing at the minute, so it's nice and quiet for us to have a chat anyway. Mm-hmm. Fergal, is this always looking like this, or is it just for us been here today? Or
No, we try to keep the thing pretty clean.
This is a pretty clean robot room.
Is it?
That's good,
right.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the way we want it. This is the way we want all our robot rooms. Obviously, fair play to you.
No, we would give it a good wash down every morning and try to keep it fairly clean.
Yeah, that's good.
Try to keep those things fairly clean if we can. Takes time, but I like to keep things in pretty good order if we can.
I mean, how long do you spend in the robot room doing your routines in the morning and the same in the evening time?
To be honest, not that long. Like, probably about 20 minutes in the morning. Mm-hmm. Give the arm a good scrub, change your filter, check your detergents, and I suppose the same in the evening again. Really, about 20 minutes. You could speed it up a lot far quicker, but you want to do your bleed holes and do the different things. If you do your things, to be fair, that you're told to do, and I suppose alarms is one of the ones a lot of people ask questions about. If you do the things you meant to do, and it doesn't take very long, you will eliminate a lot of your alarms. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Yeah. And you're not milking cows anymore. This thing's milking the cows for you. Yeah. So you've got more time. You've that wee bit more time, and you've more time to spend with the cows. And as I say, I'm focusing on breeding and focusing on milk speed now as best I can. Yeah. So you're just not in as much of a rush. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
And do you have many cows to collect then, or what sort of numbers?
I don't know how we again, people say, "Oh, you're not telling the full story." I am telling the full story. Yep. When you calve heifers, like there's a heifer up there now ready to calve, which is a bit later than I want, but anyway, she's going to calve probably, if not today, this weekend. You'll collect her for a few days. Some of them are, if they're a wee bit more, I'm going to say aggressive nearly, they'll break in quickly and they'll come to the robot quicker. It's the quieter, timider ones, you might have to collect them for a week or 10 days. But cow-wise, unless the cow's lame, if you leave them to their own pattern, you might be leaving the farm here at 6 o'clock in the evening and seeing 7 or 8 cows on the collect list, and you think, will they go through? They will go through. Leave them alone. Because I remember one of the other fellas, and it's a bit like the grazing thing, because I wasn't sure how to work it at the start with the robot either, and I was anxious about that. It's one of the main things. If you said, what is your main concerns about a robot, it wasn't even that I knew they worked. The milk cows, I was anxious about, will they be able to graze? Because I wanted to graze, like I definitely, this farm suits it. And I was concerned about that, but They do, and one of the fellas, another farmer from up around Strabane, said to me, he says, Fergal, just stay away the road and leave them to their own devices. And I have to say it was the best piece of advice nearly I got. And that's the truth. Stay away out of the road and leave them alone. If you have a lame cow or something like that, well then you need to be intervening anyway, that's number one. But number two, you might have to go and collect her.
Yeah.
And her milking, let's say she was milking 2.5 times a day, she might drop to 1.5, and she'll probably pop up on the health list anyway saying something's wrong here.
Well, sure, on average then, what is it, how many would you collect? Say once you've your heifers and stuff calved in and everything's settled down, you collecting money a day at all? Or?
No, genuinely not. That sounds ridiculous, but no.
Is it like one or two or none?
No, there's no cows collected this morning because they know if they don't go through the robot, they're not going to get to the field. I think that's part of the education process too. Yeah. There was one cow when we started back in October 18. There was one cow, an old cow. She's still here. She's a 2009 cow, number 22. She has freeze brand number 22, and she just would not go to the robot. All the rest of the cows came on really quickly and started going, and she just wouldn't go. And I thought, I'm going to have to road you. I'm going to have to sell you. Because I didn't want to be collecting her all the time. But anyway, thankfully we worked with her all winter, and once we went to the grass in the spring of 19, she's obviously very fond of grass, she discovered that if I go through this thing, I get to the field. And this is no exaggeration. She was never collected after that again. One or two mornings she went through this and discovered I'm getting out to the field, and that was the end of it, and she now does her own thing since that. But she would have been scrapped probably. So there's a great incentive in the springtime for them to get to the, and they're not getting a lot of meal, and they have been getting no meal at the feed barrier at all. That was all block silage just, so if they wanted their sweeties they had to come to the tuck shop. And that I think brought the education process in. There was no meal unless they came here. I was anxious about that as well when I brought in the diet feeder, thinking this will cause maybe less visits to the robot. It hasn't changed it one iota, not at all. So no, we, as I say, at the minute there's only one heifer, and there's been no heifers calved probably since February. It sounds ridiculous, like morning and night, say 7 mornings in the week and 7 evenings in the week. There wouldn't be 2 or 3 that you would collect a cow like in the week. Per week. Everybody seems to have the notion in Northern Ireland that if you have a robot you can't graze. And I call them the armchair advisors, that all told me at the time, oh now when you go robot, that's it, you're going to be indoors. Now my type of cow, I didn't want to be indoors. The farm lends itself to grazing with good lanes and ways around the farm, and we've always grazed here, and I did not want to stop. That was my primary fear of going, not necessarily going robotic, that I wasn't going to be able to graze. And as I said, they had the life sort of scared out of me that this, maybe they are right. And these are guys, some of them weren't even milking cows, like, but they were wrong, definitely wrong. Thanks be to God they were wrong, because the cows are tiddling in and out. They were over here yesterday, they're tiddling in and out these lanes. And it's the weirdest thing, it actually is. You need to see it to believe it. You'll see 1 or 2 cows go in that direction to the field, and you'll see another 1 or 2 come past, and they meet each other in the lane, and you swear that these are herd animals, like they're going in opposite directions. Some's going in, some's going out. It works. Grazing works, and as I say, I don't graze at night time. Different ones are still saying to me, oh, you should graze at night time, and I'm happy enough just grazing during the day and getting 70-ish% of their. I think we're probably sitting around, this year we're sitting around probably 3,000 litres from grass or forage. And I'd like to try and improve upon that, because I know a lot of ones have now slipped on down maybe to 1,700, that sort of thing. But you go back 25 years ago where the cows were sitting at 5,500 litres or thereabouts, you'd probably easily 4,000 litres from forage, and they thought nothing of it.
And what time do they get out in the morning and what time do they come back in? Or
the gates open, well, when we started around the around the beginning of April, we had the gates, I think I had the gates set around 6 o'clock in the morning to start letting them out. I tried to let them out just about the age of daylight, and then we brought them back to 5 a.m. and all summer now they sit around 5 a.m. indeed maybe even 4:30 in the middle of the summer. And generally, because I don't have a grazeway gate, if grazeway gate would let them out a lot quicker probably, because mine have to go through the robot, whether they're milked or not, they have to go through the robot to get out. But it works fine. There are still 70 odd cows. If they start getting out about 5 o'clock, when you come over there about 9:30 or 10, there's no cows in the shed there now. There's one just after being milked, and you'll find from 9 o'clock they're pretty much gone. And then from 9 till about 11, what time is it now? Probably is about that. You'll find there's not many in. You might have 1 or 2 every 15 minutes or so, but now very shortly they'll start drifting in and out constantly. You'll have 3 or 4 or 5 or maybe even 8 in the shed, and they'll just come in and out like a pendulum on the clock. And and then from 4 p.m. the gate, that's what I have set. It's entirely up to you. You can change those parameters on the system in 2 seconds on the T4C. From 4 p.m. they don't get out. So once they go in to get milked, that's them. They have to lie down and watch the TV for the night in their cubicles. And again, a lot of people say to me, "Oh, it doesn't work. You have to go to the field in the evenings and bring in cows." Well, when I was milking the parlor, I had to go to the field in the evening and bring in 70 cows. So now, yeah, we go out and we still strip graze. I'll move the fencer, and generally where we would have fed all winter in the morning, we change the feeding to the evening. So when they hear the handler go on in the yard, put in a couple of grabs of silage into the diet feeder, you'll just see a nice wee steady stream to the last of the cows in. And generally when you go to the field, then we leave the fencer to the very last thing. So when you come out to do the fencer at 5:30, 6 o'clock, most evenings you'll have none, but you might have 3 or 4 cows in. That's nothing. Sure, you have to go out and do the fencer anyway, and you bring them in with you, and that's it.
Walk out, do the fencer,
and as soon as they hear the quad come through the gate, they just come straight to the gate anyway. So they go on ahead, and you ignore them, and you do the fencer. By the time you finish the fencer, they're in.
Sure, really, not really collecting any cows. Not really sweeping
very
very
little collecting. I don't want to jinx myself, but no, very little.
One fence a day.
Yeah.
Straightforward. What we call this is, I suppose, an A paddock on its own.
A is
paddock.
Grazing during the day. B is a wee bit of TMR and cubicles at night time.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, Fergal, this is a super laneway here you've got for the cows.
Well, this was only just done there. 12th or 14th of March, I think it was. When we did the robot, we just concreted just to there, just to the edge of the point, and this was all gravel then all the way up to those gates up there, but all the other lanes on the farm were concrete. So this was getting dirty, and I didn't like it like that. And just again, I'm conscious of their feet and tramping through muck and dirt and dung. Yeah. And so I bit the bullet and got it concreted there 8 weeks ago. And now if it's a wet evening or anything like that, you can just skate around with the tractor and just push it all in 2 seconds, and it keeps it like that. That there hasn't been scraped now probably in a week, and it's clean. It's good and clean, and it's good for the feet. So, and it gives good access now to all the paddocks and whatnot. So they're spoiled.
Good job.
I wanted more milk. I wanted feed efficiency, and I suppose one thing that I probably haven't said is people can say it can be information overload. I love information. Information helps you make decisions. So yeah. I'm a sado. Like I'd be sitting, maybe I have it obviously linked in the computer in the house as well. I could be sitting at night time at 8:30 for an hour when the wife's watching Coronation Street, which I couldn't stand to do anyway. And I'd be poking on the T4C, looking at cows and this and that and the other. So I just like that information, but again, I suppose that harks back to the previous life. But it does what I wanted it to do. It definitely does. And as I say, on the grass front, it works. Grazing works. And, I'm at a level now where there's a cow coming in now looking to get milked. I'm at a level now where we could look it up in numbers or whatever, and so hopefully some of the sons probably will down the line take it on and probably put in a second robot and keep going. But that's all I want for now. This is plenty for an old retired man.
And so for the cows, obviously.
Well, the cows. I just wish, funny, a brother of mine said to me different times, you should be getting, they wish she's away to the warm water. They love the, they love the warm water from the cooler. That's the drinker of choice by a mile.
Yes.
The tepid water.
Yeah,
I just wish there was something for, but there isn't. Like Holland and them, I think, actually pay a premium on their milk for grazing. That's number one. And I say all the time, you know, there are grazing herds and loads of grazing herds in the north. Probably not so many robotic grazing herds, but we don't get a premium. But the second thing is, these cows here are, I call it free range milk. They talk about free range hens, and they all work very much at advertising the free range hens. This is free range milk. It's entirely up to these cows if they want to come in, if they want to go out. So from 5 a.m. in the morning to 4 p.m. or later in the evening, if they want to stay in here, if they want to go out, if they want to stand in the lane, if they want to be milked, it is their choice entirely. It is free range milk. So maybe we'll get a premium for that. Just going to do a squash.
That's good. I like. They're all
But they're
very
grazing.
content and grit.
They are. They're fairly, as I say, they're fairly happy, and they are a predominantly British Frisian herd. So I just like that style of cow,
Yes.
and I wanted to get more out of them. I knew there was more in them, and I just maybe there are parlour men who have definitely got more out of them, but I just wasn't able to do it. You could give them all the meal you wanted in the parlour. It just didn't seem to work for me, but it's working now, thanks be to God.
Yeah, they're looking fantastic.